Sign language is a unique language and medium of communication commonly used by deaf people across the world field. Sign language is believed not to be universal. That is, each country has its own sign language. However, just like any other academic field of study, people who wish to become sign language interpreters are expected to undergo an intensive training, not less than 3 years and 4 years for diploma and degree programs, respectively. Not only, but people study in this field as far as obtaining a doctorate in sign language. With me here is Dr. Anton, who traveled all the way from Louisiana, United States, to Zambia, where he is conducting a 10-day sign language training. He is going to explain to us more details as to what sign language interpretation is. Dr. Anton, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Vincent.
Give us a brief introduction of who you are.
Well, as you said, I come from the United States, Louisiana specifically. I'm trained in sign language interpreting. I received an associate degree in manual communication, a baccalaureate degree in communications. My master is in linguistics of American Sign Language from Gallaudet University, and my PhD is in special education deafness from the University of New Orleans. And so I've been working in the field of teaching sign language and special education and higher education for the last 35 years. I've been certified as a sign language interpreter for 35 plus years, working in community settings, VRI, video relay, video remote interpreting settings, mostly community though. I do work in terms of interpreting higher ed, but not K-12 settings. And so I'm currently retired from Xavier University, where I served as the Associate Professor of Language and Education. And I am currently now doing training. I do research on social linguistic aspects in the Black deaf community. And I also provide workshop training seminars for individuals who are learning to become sign language interpreters.
Wow, that is interesting. That is interesting to hear from Dr. Anton. So, as we have heard already, that the reason why he is here in Zambia is to train sign language interpreters to become skillful interpreters. As a sign language interpreter and trainer, what do you have to say about sign language? What is it?
Well, sign language is a visual gestural language. It is, in many countries, used predominantly by individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. And so sign language is not universal, as you alluded to in your introduction. Each country has their own respective sign languages. As their spoken languages are different amongst countries, so too are their sign languages. Although some countries have, like for example in the United States, our language started by Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet going to France and learning French Sign Language and bringing teachers of the deaf from France into the United States. So our sign language is influenced by French Sign Language. Individuals who are in many African countries, through the missionary work of Dr. Andrew Foster, their sign language is based a lot in American Sign Language, ASL. So although there are some similarities, the differences lie in the indigenous aspects of the particular country and their language. And so sign language is not universal, but it's a language. It's not a spoken language. It's not a spoken language. Some people say it's watered down. No, it's a language in its own right, its own grammar, its own structure, and its own syntax.
Okay. So this brings us to the next question. Is it possible to communicate or interpret for deaf people from French, Chinese, Portuguese-speaking countries when you are from an English-speaking country and you can't understand the language in those countries?
No.
It is not.
You would have to be fluent in the language and also the sign language. So it's like me going and taking a course for 3 months in French and me going to France. I would never ever consider myself fluent in French, let alone be able to understand French Sign Language. It takes years of study to master the language, and so no.
Okay.
If you are, not to say that, for example, in the US there are trilingual interpreters, meaning they're fluent in English, Spanish, and American Sign Language. So they can listen to someone speaking Spanish and sign into ASL.
Okay.
That's a trilingual person, so it's not to say if you were fluent in Japanese, you could listen to a Japanese person and express it in the language of your choice.
All right.
So it's different.
So just like you have traveled across the world, for example, you have come here in Zambia, you have seen what Zambian Sign Language is. For example, if I travel to the United States, Zambian Sign Language is different from American Sign Language. When I get there, that means that I will need first to learn American Sign Language before I become a certified American Sign Language interpreter.
Correct.
All right, that is good. So this brings us to another question. Why hasn't the people at the helm of regulating sign language interpretation come up with a universal sign language?
Why isn't there a universal spoken language? Why isn't there a universal spoken language? I'm asking you. So why do you think there's a gestuno, there's a gestural language, but just as we all speak a different language, there's no universal sign language.
Okay.
So that would never happen.
I get it. Makes sense. It makes just like in the hearing community, each region, each country speak their own language. So it is also in sign language. Each country should have their own sign language. Right.
And not all countries do. Not all countries are as developed as others, but there's no universal sign language. And that will, I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime.
Okay. All right. So this brings us to another part also which we need to understand. What really consists of sign language? Is sign language all about throwing hand in the air? Just like we see people signing and you say a sign language interpreter, some would say, but this person is just throwing hand in the air. What do those people do?
You remember I told you it's a visual gestural language, so individuals who use sign language, it's a set form. All right, there's parameters in terms of how those signs are formed. They're not just arbitrarily, adapted, picked up. So members of the deaf community were very meticulous in terms of how signs were developed. And just as spoken words are metaphysized to signs, they metaphysized, for example, back when we did this sign for help, it's metaphysized all over to this, help.
Help.
All right, so in the English language, in order for any language to survive, it has to change.
Yeah.
The reason Latin is no longer alive, it's a dead language, it's not changed. So our language, new words are put into the vernacular, and so our language evolves and it changes, and so too do sign languages. And so this whole notion of, like you're saying, just randomly throwing your hands in the air, remember, it's a language used of and for the deaf.
Yeah.
And so those are the individuals who should be forming them.
I get it. I get it. So now, you say sign language is different from country to country. What should I do when I go to a country whose sign language I hardly know? Can I manage to communicate with the deaf people of that country? You said it's not possible.
No.
And in the first place, I first need to learn a language in that country and get trained in that sign language. Later on, I become a certified sign language interpreter in that.
Do you realize how much time that would take? So
Yes.
are you planning on staying in that country? Well, then you would have to.
Okay.
If you're talking about just going to visit a country, it would take you 4 to 5 years to master the language. So I don't know if that's how long you plan on staying there.
So now, if I meet deaf in that country, does that mean that I may not able to carry out a conversation with deaf in that country?
It depends upon who you meet, depends upon their level of sign language, depends upon their hearing loss. There are a lot of variables that come into play. It's just like if you took a weekend course in French and decided to go to France, or you took a 10-day course in Italian and want to go to Italy. Can you fluently talk with someone there in 10 days?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So that's as far as you get. Where's the bathroom? How much? Very basic, minimal, not enough to hold a good conversation.
All right. So for someone who wants to learn sign language, what advice can you give them?
You have to immerse yourself in the deaf community, for one, because you have to understand the values and the customs and the culture, what is in that particular community. You have to understand why there's certain variations in the community. So individuals who are late deafened may not sign the same as someone who was born deaf. All right, so there are a lot of variables that come into play, but first and foremost is to have a good relationship with members of the deaf community. That would help.
All right. So, how long does it take to learn sign language and reach interpreting competence fluently? And what skills should one possess?
Well, that's not one set answer. It all depends. It all depends upon how much time you're going to put into it. How much time you put into. How much time are you going to put into into your studying? How long? What's the curriculum like? So, are you going to devote it full time? So it depends. Like for someone who says they're going to start and they're doing it full time for the next 3-4 years, because with that comes practice, and you go do your practicum, you go into the community, you do your work, your research, and things like that. So it's going to take a while.
Okay. Is attending level 1, level 2, and level 3 for a sign language to become a sign language interpreter? Is that enough? Is it enough?
It's a beginning.
It's a beginning. So after carrying out those levels to become a sign language interpreter, you still need to undergo more training.
Correct.
Okay.
You'll continue even after that.
Okay.
We're all lifelong learners, and so we'll never stop. Because, as I said, new things come into the language.
Yeah.
And so you can't just say, "Oh, I'm there, I've arrived." You're not. You're never there.
Okay. That is interesting. So why is this training you are conducting now here in Zambia important? What really are you focusing on? And why is it important for sign language interpreters to attend training of this nature?
Well, you said it earlier, if you want to advance in the field, if you want to advance in the profession and be able to communicate fluently and effectively with members of the deaf community, you need training. And so the importance of this training is to allow students the opportunity to advance in their skill set. And without that advancement, you'll get stagnant, and you want to be the best interpreter that you can be, and understanding all of the factors that are integral to becoming an effective sign language interpreter. So training sessions like this, activities that are offered through the local deaf community, visiting other deaf communities across and around Zambia, and then just having a strong interpreting pool of individuals with whom you can work with and collectively get together to talk about ways in which you could steadily advance the profession is one way to do that. And training opportunities like this are those things that you need to avail yourself of.
All right. Well, it was my pleasure meeting Dr. Anton today, and he has taken us through as to what we are supposed to learn about sign language and how much we need to invest in order for us to become competent sign language interpreters. Dr. Anton, it was my pleasure meeting you.
Same here.
Thank you very much.
Vincent.
Yes.
How are you, madam?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Introduce yourself.
My name is Maureen Modesto. I come from Chipada, Eastern Province. Basically, I stay in Sinda. I'm a teacher by profession. at a school named the Donse Primary School in Sinda there. I'm a special education teacher. Yeah, I'm spearheading the unit. There is a special unit. We have for deaf and dumb children and other kinds of disabilities.
All right. Okay. So what brings you here?
My coming here, I received an invitation letter for the same conference that is for FSLIS organization to which I belong. I am the chapter chairperson for FSLIS organization in Chipata.
So far, what has been your experience in this training?
It has been so nice. I'm learning a lot on how to become a professional sign language interpreter. Yeah, previously the knowledge that I had was scanty, but now at least I'm broadening my knowledge in sign language interpreting profession. For example, yesterday we learned about code of ethics, how an interpreter should behave, how you should fit in the deaf community, how you should perceive the deaf community and how they should perceive you back because of your code of ethics, the code of conduct.
Second year medical student at the university, at the Coca-Cola University. I came here to come and improve my skills as a sign language interpreter so that I might be able to communicate with the deaf community in an effective manner.
I'm Botswana, and I'm here in Zambia as a sign language interpreter, attending a workshop or training for sign language interpreters. I just wanted to upgrade myself and being exposed to another cultures.
For how long have you been in sign language?
Let me say professionally, I started interpreting in 2014.
Tell us your name and your
My name is Abako Quintin, Team Fulwe, and I am a sign language interpreter from Botswana. He is working for the organization of the deaf called the Botswana Society for the Deaf.
Okay.
Yes, and also sponsored by the SIP.
Okay.